So today is the 15th of December. I was invited slash ordered to give the welcome address. I've decided to make it a speech about freedom of expression and the need for freedom of expression for trans people, and why books like Palestina Paravai and Grace Pandus in the Nature are important in the historical context of freedom of expression. So today is the 15th of December. On 15th of December in 1791, 233 years back, in the United States, soon after their independence, the Bill of Rights was ratified. And this Bill of Rights, much like our preamble, talks about, in Article 3 of the Bill of Rights, talks about freedom of speech, freedom to peaceably assemble, and yet when people peaceably assemble, we are similarly around the same time, 13th of December, a couple of days, 13th of December 1946, in the Indian Constitution Assembly, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, I don't know why we call him Pandit, Manitola. Yeah. So then Prime Minister. Yeah. I don't know. Kashmiri Pandits issue. But so Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru, because he was not a doctor, Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru, then Prime Minister, passed the Objectives Resolution on 13th December 1946. The Objective Resolutions of what the Constitution is going to talk about, and this is the objectives of the Constituent Assembly. In those objectives, he talks about all power and authority. Objective number 4: all power and authority of the sovereign are derived from the people. All powers of the government, of the state, of the authority, of the state or the sovereign state are derived from the people. And the same objectives also states in point number 8, this ancient land has to make its full and willing contribution to the promotion of world peace. We are not certain what the Indian government has done for world peace, but at least the Indian people like Grace Pandus and us, all of us, are doing something for world peace. And while we mark these important historical dates, we also need to look at the preamble itself. That sufficient historians today conclude that Dr. Ambedkar was the primary author of. Now the preamble talks about justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. Of all of these points, only fraternity everybody accepted. The Constituent Assembly, everybody was, everybody, it was accepted as is. Because fraternity is easy to commit to and exceptionally impossible to deliver on. Therefore, all political leaders were very happily ready to commit to equality, commit to fraternity. Whereas justice, equality, liberty, there were debates. They were not certain whether these were worthy goals to pursue, or this particular wording of justice, liberty, equality. The origin of, at least the English-speaking world, says that the origin of the words liberty, equality, fraternity comes from the French Revolution. And the French Revolution, during the French Revolution, in every house, they would put the signage. The way today people put, what's the Ram flag? The Ram Janmabhoomi flag outside their houses. At one point in time in France, people used to put the French Liberation signage outside their houses. This signage had the words liberté, equality, fraternity, ou la mort. Liberty, equality, fraternity, ou la mort. What does that mean? If not death. Death to you, death to me. Let's end this right here. If we cannot provide liberty, equality, fraternity to all the French people, let's die. Now, the all or Marth part was dropped later on because there was a violent connotation to it. French Revolution was violent. But in the Indian context and in the context of trans people, the Aulamoth, the if not death, is in a million ways every single day. Why am I talking about these dates, these different concepts or ideas that have been promised to all of us? Promised by the US Constitution, promised by the Indian Constitution, promised by the French Revolution. And these ideas are not new. They come from Buddhism. Maitreyi as a concept from Buddhism is, Dr. Ambedkar says, the word fraternity comes from the Indian origin Buddhist concept of Maitreyi. While all of these concepts have been spoken about and all of these promises have been made, it is fairly, I would say, fairly critical analysis to say none of them have been achieved, not for everyone. None of these goals have been achieved, not for everyone. And the true testament of it is the children in Palestine and the trans women in India. And many millions more suffering around the world because justice, liberty, equality, fraternity are yet to be achieved. / delivered upon, not just achieved. Achieved means it cannot be achieved, or we will always keep fighting to achieve it. But you promised it. The Constitution promises it. Why hasn't the government delivered? If all power and authority of the sovereign are derived from the people as per Nehru's objectives, then why have these promises not been delivered upon? That is the question before us, and that is the question in all our hearts at most points in time. Now, while we speak about all of this, December 15th is also an important date in the history of Palestine, because it was on December 15th, 1988, 36 years back, that Resolution 43/177, which is the UN General Assembly resolution, was passed, recognizing the Declaration of Independence of the Palestine Liberation Organization, and the name Palestine Liberation Organization, which is the name used for the members who were present at the UN, was changed to Palestine as the legal name on this date, 36 years back. And yet, 18 April 2024, this year, the UN Security Council brings another vote to recognize Palestine as an official member of the UN, and the United States vetoes the resolution. So why, despite all of these promises on paper, do we still face the injustices that we face every single day? And I'm sure every speaker coming on after me will deliberate and share some of their own lived experiences and share some of the case studies and the stories that we've heard from our sisters, from our Zolargal, from our comrades. While I welcome all of you to this gathering, and I welcome all of you to read Grace Banu's books, while I welcome all of you to this event and to read Grace Banu's books, to read all of the books of all of our authors and the books we are going to be publishing, I also want to point out a poem that a Palestinian refugee in Canada, she's a performer, she performed this some 10 years back. This was in 2011, more than 10 years back, in London, the same London that Grace Banu had visited and written this book. And she writes this poem. She was approached by journalists to give a human interest story. Don't use the word apartheid, don't use the word colonizer. Give me a human story. What do Palestinian women, how do they suffer because there is no healthcare? Give me stories like that so that we can get, as a journalist, we can get, common people in the West to understand and sympathize with the Palestinian cause. And she responded, "Today my body was a TV massacre, televised, that had to fit into sound bites and word limits. When a journalist writes an article, there's a 1,200 word limit usually. And a sound bite is what? 30 seconds, 60 seconds. How can I convey the injustices that me and people like me have faced for years and years in a sound bite of 30 seconds, in an article of 120 words? When we don't write our own stories, when we let these interlocutors, these interpreters, these intermediaries tell our story, the fact is it will be truncated, it will be morphed, and it will be in its own way an injustice to the real stories of the people on the ground. And in the conclusion of the same poem, she says, no soundbite for all the children who have died because of the bombing, for all the cats, in Palestine that have died because of the bombing. No soundbite will bring them back to life. We teach life after they have occupied the last sky. These are words out of Rafi's Ziyada's poem. We teach life. Patience is not at the tip of my tongue. Patience is not at the tip of my tongue as bombs drop over Gaza. We teach life after they have occupied the last sky. And she says, begrudgingly, is anyone out there? Will anyone listen? And to Rafi Ziyada and to the millions of people in Palestine, we say, we hear you. We hear you. This trans woman, Dalit trans woman from Tamil Nadu heard you. And that is why these books exist. Freedom of expression is not freedom to hurt, but freedom of expression is freedom to tell the stories of my hurt without censorship, without self-censorship, without socially imposed censorship. And if that freedom of expression is truly to exist, none of us will have a case today for conducting this meeting, if freedom of expression really exists. And on that note, I welcome all of you to this event, and let me call back on stage Joy.